everybody. Welcome to the Women in Retail Talks. I'm Melissa Campanelli, co-founder of the Women in Retail Leadership Circle. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Stacey DeVroff, who is a social media strategist and the CEO and founder of Influence Central, which is a social and digital consultancy. Today we're actually talking about some results and some findings of a report that Influence Central recently published that details consumer behavior during the coronavirus pandemic. We'll also talk about how retailers should respond to these findings, influencer marketing in general right now, and more. So Stacey, thank you so much for joining me today.
So great to be here with you, Melissa.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've connected, so I'm so happy to share some time with you. So let's get into it. So I understand, Stacey, that you just published a report titled Influencer Central's Consumer Insights COVID-19 Report. That is detailing some of the drastic shifts in consumer behavior taking place right now. Can you walk us through the report, sort of, why you thought to create it, what does it focus on, and some key insights?
Absolutely. One of the things, as part of Influence Central, we work with over 350 national brands each year. And so really understanding where consumer behavior is trending and also trying to understand the nuances of both the dramatic changes we've seen in consumer behavior during COVID-19 and what will stick around after the pandemic eases and as we start to see hyper-local easing of restrictions. So we interviewed over 700 consumers on our Influence Central Consumer Insights panel, and here are the key findings I think that would be really interesting to retailers. The first thing is that online shopping has really woven itself into the daily tapestry of our consumer lives. It started with grocery, where it still feels people stock up, they don't want to spend a lot of time, and all of a sudden people became very inventive about not just online grocery pickup, but also ways to get things delivered to your house, because that feels the safest about not exposure. And what happened as a part of that is it broadened out to e-commerce in general. So people started moving their purchases, whether it's apparel or beauty, onto e-commerce because stores were closed. They didn't want to deal with social distancing. And people are still really interested in learning even more about delivery and pickup. So this online shopping means that for every single company out there, and particularly for retailers, they have to relook fundamentally at what they're doing about e-commerce. This is going to accelerate a digital transformation. And what's interesting, if you look at a mega retailer of Walmart, they just today announced that they are ditching Jet.com, which they bought for $3 billion 4 years ago, because they're really trying to build up their own online grocery pickup and develop capabilities at Walmart.com. So it shows how much, that's just an example of how much transformation is going on in the retail space when you take, a big gorilla in that space who's doing a lion's share of people shopping. And so as we move into the categories of clothes, shoes, makeup, and even as stores open, there's going to be so many issues. Consumers are afraid of dressing rooms, about crowding, about trying on clothes that other people have tried on. So it means that in general, our findings emphasize that e-commerce is here to stay, and people are going to want more and more options to make it easy to purchase clothes online or any other things that they're looking for in retail and to return them. And so we see a real transformation of how that's happening. One of the stories that I heard recently that was a striking example of this is a small grocery chain of Italian grocery stores, and they're now using OpenTable to schedule when people can come shop. So it's that innovation of, okay, people don't want to be in crowded stores, they want to do things online. So the combination of that, calling ahead, getting some stuff, what's happening, it's very profound. The next thing that was striking out of our consumer survey is that brand loyalty has really slipped during the time of coronavirus. Only 12% of consumers are willing to pay for a name brand, and they're just, preferences are sliding from tried and true stores and products into what's available and what's inexpensive. With so much furloughed, 60% of consumers are looking to to add generic products into the mix because they're available and they're saving money. And I think that the reflection of that is that there have been both stores and products that have supply side issues. They aren't opened. And so a big question that's going to be there for marketing and retailers is how to get brand loyalty. How are you going to deal with people not sort of slipping into generic or even crazy stuff like during COVID-19, everybody's dressy on top, cash on the bottom. And I think that even as we emerge into a slow return to work, people are going to be more leisure wear. We're going to have a much less formalized society. So all of these trends and the statistics that we're seeing are laddering up to fundamental changes in consumer shopping behavior.
Yeah, I mean, that is so super interesting. I'm very interested in what you said about loyalty, because I have been hearing some things about how right now people are being very loyal to brands that are like taking care of them right now. They're watching how they're behaving. Are they giving back? Are they treating them nicely even though they can't buy something from them? Did you see anything around that with the loyalty? Or, I understand what you're saying, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, it actually segues into what consumers most want from brands, because that's part of what you're touching on, Melissa. So first and foremost, people want deals, discounts, cost savings.
Mm-hmm.
So 88% say cost savings is number one. Similar percentages on deals, freebies, discounting. People definitely are looking to save money. The next thing, which ties into that loyalty, is direct support for them as consumers. So where can I find your stuff? Where can I now buy my favorite products? How can I know when my stores are opening? Like I was just reading this morning that 50% of Kohl's are slowly opening. So it's going to be hyper local waves of shopping as stores open. And so 61% of consumers say they want support from brands. They want brands to help them with customer service. They want them to be there. They want to know that they care. They want empathy. They want sensitivity. What's interesting, and they also want responsible messaging, but what's really surprising that came out of our survey is direct charitable give back doesn't matter as much unless it's very locally focused. Consumers just aren't valuing that. And I think that it's not driving what they, in terms of their loyalty or preferences. What they do resent is brands going silent. So if you have your favorite store or brand and they are just silent during this process, consumers resent that. They want to, and that's where that empathy and the sort of keeping customers close comes in. People want to know that they want to know what's going on. They want to hear the latest. They want to know the brand's there for them and sending out messages. And you do see a rise of some very effective campaigns. If you just look, for example, in the alcohol space with the Quarantini ruling supreme, but some of the alcohol companies like Hendrix and Grey Goose, they've hired out-of-work bartenders to serve up mixology videos for their home consumers. So it's that idea of being helpful at a time where people can't go out to bars, but they could give them content that they really want. And I think that also in another sector, we're seeing a lot of consumer loyalty to keep local restaurants, local shops vibrant. So if you can take out from a local restaurant, because I think that people want to see some of their favorite stores survive. But all of that behavior, it's going to be a long time before we go out into a crowded retail, throngs of shoppers, before we go sit down in restaurants. And I think that the other theme that comes out of this is we're going to see a lot of hyper-local marketing because it depends on where products open and where stores open. They need to really focus on that geographic place.
That's great. And that sort of dovetails into my next question, which is around what retailers should be doing, how they should communicate with customers and prospects going forward. Obviously, they should be over communicating, it sounds like. Are there any other sort of things that they should be doing, you think, based on this data?
I think that one of the things that marketers have to realize is there's been a fundamental shift, a surge of social media tune-in. And social media has not always been a dramatic part of the marketing mix. But as they move to e-commerce, they're really going to need to think about how they are keeping the loyalty programs going, how they're keeping customers close to them, and how they're moving. Like, we are seeing a lot more tune-in. 36% of influencers across all their platforms, influencers are seeing a 36% surge across their platforms of tune-in. We just did a campaign for Smithfield that was supposed to be an Easter campaign. It turned into innovative recipes to make for home families. And the engagement impressions were 300% higher than expected, which is a reflection of just how powerful tune-in has become, of people looking for advice and guidance. And I think that the social marketing is just going to have to be a much more integrated part of the mix, even for traditional brands or traditional retailers that have relied on, whether it's catalogs or e-zines and other things. Yeah.
So let's jump ahead, Stacey. We did talk a little bit about influencers and social media, and I know influencers is a big part of your background. Do you see it changing at all, since there's usually a focus on like wealth or like material items and stuff like that when you think of it? I think when you think of influencer marketing.
Well, I think that there's many facets of influencer marketing. I think the most well-known is celebrities, and also in the luxury space. And there are some markets that are going to be very slow to come back: travel, luxury, fashion. And I also think that we're going to see, we have tremendous tune-in. We have consumers who are increasing almost 20% more the influencers they want to follow, or finding, a lot of people just find influencer content through search. But what I think is going to happen is that we're going to move from this aspirational influencer marketing, where it's all perfect pictures, these beautiful scenarios. And we see the surge on Instagram of Instagram stories, which is much more down to earth, practical. Here I am. It's not beautifully shot. Here's what's going on. It's relatable. It's real. And so I actually think that there's going to be a move to increase scale by moving to more middle of the road or micro influencers to achieve volume. And there's going to be a move from this idealistic luxury into just pragmatic. Nobody wants to see perfect pictures on, let's say, Instagram. We all want to know that our hair all looks bad, and that we're all in line waiting to get a haircut, or that we're wearing clothes that we might be down to 4 outfits that we rotate through. And so I think that it's going to be less like modeling and much more focused on everyday life. On people are going to continue to be cooking more from home, on cost savings, and the content people are tuning into, from food to home exercise. All of these things are going to continue to be important. We're just not going to see this. I think we're going to see, and we have seen, much less of high-level influencer campaigns. So the celebrity influencer that are very expensive, they might galvanize attention, but they're also not what consumers can relate to. Like, only 2% of consumers think that celebrities share their lifestyle or they can relate to recommendations. And so I think that there is going to be a fundamental shift in how the type of influencers brands engage and what they expect from them.
That's great. I mean, do you see it as changing for good, or is it sort of just going to happen right now, like in a bubble? Or it's hard to say, I know.
One of the things that's being highly debated, and one of the things we look at all the time, is what is change going on now and what is going to continue and really fundamentally change our lives as consumers going forward. I think that one thing is clear, is that we have become comfortable not shopping in stores. And as we look at the closures of everyone from J.Crew to Nordstrom's, of JCPenney filing for bankruptcy, there's going to have to be a gigantic rethinking of what brick and mortar looks like, how it's structured, how it serves people. And I don't think we're going back. I think that people have been forced to understand how to take advantage of finding things online, product discovery, And I think that that's going to be around. And actually, there'll be technologies. We saw the beginning of those technologies in the beauty space where you could try on makeup and see what it looked like on your face. I think we're going to start trying on clothes. We're going to experience that, and we're going to live in a world where we pick things up, even curbside, right? You can imagine driving to your favorite clothing store, picking some things up, and then there will be a return policy or a cleaning policy. It's just all going to change. And I think that that's going to stay with us, this desire to find things easily. And we see across the board in social media, people adding shopping buttons. So you can shop now from Pinterest. There's different ways to shop from all over the place on Instagram, Pinterest, so that when consumers engage in discovery or they hear a recommendation, such as from an influencer, they can swipe and click and get it. And that is not going away. And so I think that the very sector of retail, as well as travel and hotels, are going to fundamentally shift. And what's going to be really interesting, and the reason we keep reissuing surveys, is to see how those changes are morphing and staying.
Yeah, totally. I think we're going to end it here. Just maybe we can just end it on a positive note. I know we talked before we got on, we were talking about how you feel sort of positive about what's going on in the economy going forward next couple of months here. Is this going to be good for retailers in the long run, or do you have, can we think of to spin it in a positive way as we close?
Well, I think it's actually going to be great. We have a gradual lessening of shutdown across the economy. And I think that for retailers, as well as a lot of brands, one thing that any crisis, and this for sure is the biggest crisis that hit most of us in our lives, is this challenge to innovate and pivot. And so the biggest question that retailers have to ask themselves is, what are our opportunities? Where are we in digital transformation? Where are we from a social media e-commerce perspective? What can we do to accelerate that? And how can we reinvent the way that we have structured our retail to really meet the anxieties, the cost savings, and also the discovery elements of what consumers want? So I actually think that we're going to see some very exciting innovation out of this, forged through the crisis. And also I think that many brands, including retailers, have been in what I call pause marketing. Nobody has really felt comfortable doing anything because there have been furloughs, it's unclear, revenue streams are disrupted. And we're going to see people unpush the pause button. And I think we're going to see this robust reinvention of really cool things. And then just a quick example of that is, I was reading that DW Warehouse is starting a mini shoe store within large grocery store chain. And that is an example of people are going to the grocery store. They might not be going out to the shoe stores that are closed right now, but it's like an innovative way that maybe the fundamental footprint of grocery stores starts to look very different. And that's, I think, very exciting and very positive.
Great. What a great way to end. And that's a great insight. I'm going to look out for that. So anyway, thanks so much, Stacey, for joining me on this episode of Women in Retail Talks. It was great to chat with you again. Hopefully we can do it face-to-face soon. I'd love to thank everyone for listening. And for more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at womeninretail.com/podcasts, where you can find show notes. And Women in Retail Talks is also available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. And of course, make sure to subscribe to our podcast channel page as well. And if you enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate it and review it. Until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.